Good afternoon, or morning, or evening, or I guess if you can come up with some other time, it might be a good one of those too. Welcome, everybody. My name is Brad Keeler. I'm the director of the Geo-Institute. It is not Director's Cut today. It is a live stream. We are very happy today to have with us USUCGER, one of our close partners, to hold a National Science Foundation information session with Giovanna Biscontin from the Engineering Directorate. She will be telling you all kinds of things. She said she will not be breaking any news. Still stay tuned for the next hour. We will have a great discussion with Giovanna, question and answer after the presentation. A few things to get out of the way first. If you do not know anything about the Geo-Institute, you should visit geoinstitute.org after you watch today and learn all that you can learn. We are a technical society. We have about 12,000 members, mostly geotechnical engineers and geologists. We would love it if you are not a member, if you become a GI member. We would love to have you. Similarly, Adda will tell you during her portion of this broadcast how you can become a USUCGER member. We would love you to become a USUCGER member as well if you are not currently. If you like what you see today, you should do two things. You should click subscribe. You should click get notifications. We will let you know every single time we post something to the GI YouTube channel, which is, I hope you know, very frequently. Now, with all of those items out of the way, I will turn it over to our host for today, who will give you some instructions on how you can ask questions and how you can make the most of this presentation. From the University of California, Berkeley, it is Adda Athanasopoulos-Zekkos. Adda, take it away.
Thank you, Brad. It feels like I'm walking into a stadium with that kind of introduction. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. So as Brad mentioned, I'm at UC Berkeley, but hosting today's session as president of the USUCGER, that you can learn more about by visiting usugar.org, our website. We are a geotechnical focused organization trying to help push along education, research, and just maintain our strong community. We can disseminate information, we post faculty openings, we sponsor small research projects. We do a lot of things that you can learn about in our website. So please visit. If your institution is not a member, you can get for the price of one institution membership, basically all your geotechnical colleagues involved. And so feel free to reach out to me personally or through the USUCGER email listserv, and we will answer your questions and help you join us if you're not members. And if you are members, we thank you for your continued support. And as we enter our new membership drive really in the next couple of months. But we thank the Geo-Institute for this joint event that they have helped us organize, and it's really a pleasure to have Dr. Giovanna Biscontin join us, who is the NSF Program Director for ECI. She will give some introduction for herself, so I'm not going to spend any time doing so. But it's great to have her with us, and she'll give, as Brad mentioned, a short presentation at the beginning just to set the stage and hopefully maybe touch upon some of the topics that you raised in the survey that you submitted with your questions. So thank you for participating in that. But then we will have a lot of time to also have more of a discussion. I'll bring up some things based on what the input I received. And then we will also be getting questions submitted via the live event under the comment section on the YouTube channel. So please feel free to post them there, and we will address them as quickly as we can. So with that, Dr. Biscontin, thank you for joining us today, and we can switch it over to you.
Thank you so much. I'd like to thank you, Adda, and USUCGER, and Brad and the GI for inviting me. I'm really excited to be here today. I think I can start sharing. Let's see if I can manage to do this right after all the preparation. And here it is. I think you should be seeing the front slide of my presentation. Great, excellent. So as Adda promised, a short introduction about myself. Did it work? Yeah, here it is. So I am a geotechnical engineer through and through. All my degrees from my undergraduate degree onwards have been on geotechnical engineering. And I was an academic for quite a while, first at Texas A&M University, and then at the University of Cambridge in the UK. I have done research in a lot of different areas and topics, some of which are listed on the slides, but those are only the ones that I've been involved with in the last few years. So I think NSF liked the fact that I probably have done some type of research in almost all the topics, say almost, surprise me, all the topics that I'm likely to encounter when looking after your proposals. And I'm learning more and more every day because I read all the great ideas that come our way. So my current job is as program director in the Engineering for Civil Infrastructure program at NSF in the Division of Civil, Mechanical and Manufacturing Innovation within the Directorate of Engineering. So my job entails coordination of proposal reviews and recommendations. Like today, outreach to geotechnical and coastal engineering community. I inherited also that part of ECI. And I've been working on a number of initiatives within NSF. Think about solicitations to give an idea, and between agencies. Today, I'm going to try to be as quick as possible, so I'll be speaking really fast so that we have some time for questions. And I'm going to touch on some of these topics and incorporate some of the questions that you submitted in advance. This is the NSF building, and I basically have not been there at all since I started in September 2020 as program director at NSF. So some of you probably are more familiar with it than I am. So just to set the stage, NSF was created in 1950. We just celebrated 70 years to promote the progress of science, advance the nation's health, prosperity, and welfare, and secure national defense. We really are trying to advance the frontiers of research towards the future, ensure accessibility and inclusivity, and secure global leadership. And we're counting on you for these. I got some numbers from the 2021 report of activities. NSF last year received a 9 billion budget. Of that, 94% was returned to was used to fund research and returned to the community as grants, funding for education, research, major research equipment, and maintaining and operating facilities. We evaluated over 43,000 proposals, of which 11,000 and a bit were funded and representing almost 2,000 institutions with support for 300,000 plus people. So it's a lot of work to get all of that through. And we really appreciate everybody that agreed to serve on the panels and volunteered to help. We couldn't do it without the whole community supporting the effort. So, thank you also for that really important function that you help us with. NSF is a relatively shallow organization in terms of hierarchy. Our director is Dr. Panchanathan, and the policy of NSF is set by the National Science Board. We have 7 directorates that address different scientific areas and fund research in those areas. And this includes the Education and Human Resources Directorate. Of course, we have a lot of initiatives that are across the directorates and NSF-wide. The orange boxes are for our divisions that are the directorates that are basically focused on NSF operations. So the important one that does all the budget, finance, and award management. So those are the folks that actually manage the grants finances and give you the money if you get an award. And then our IT group that helps us make it all work. Within the Director of Engineering, where I work, we have a relatively new director, Dr. Margulis, and we have 3 divisions that cover the various disciplines. They're by and large aligned with traditional topics. And then we have an Engineering, Education, and Centers Directorate and an Industrial Innovation and Partnership. Sorry, I should have said division. One of the questions that you submitted was on new news or the impact of recent legislation. So right now, NSF doesn't have a budget, so we don't see any impact of legislation until everything is actually resolved. But one of the proposals in the budget is that the Industrial Innovation Partnership Division would graduate to a directorate. So it would go out of engineering and become another one of the green boxes in the previous slide over here. And this is basically trying to get a faster connection between the science and fundamental research that we conduct in our divisions, more directly linked to applications and industrial settings. So stay tuned. It's one of the things that's being discussed in answer to your question. So as we said earlier, I'm in the CMMI division, and we have 5 clusters, and each cluster addresses different scientific concerns, and it could have just one big core program or several core programs. In the resilient and sustainable infrastructure, we have the ECI program and the natural hazard engineering research infrastructure, which is a program within NSF, but it only funds the facilities. So you cannot now send a proposal for research. I'll go into how the 2 programs interact in a sec. Now, even if there are all these divisions within, or the separation in a way within our organization, we have a lot of programs that are cross-cutting, and there are a lot of opportunities that I think are appropriate for geotechnical engineering research, both within CMMI, in engineering potentially, and also in other directorates, such as the Earth Science Directorate. I'm going to highlight the yellow, the yellow box, which is the Leap High program that is basically focusing on cross-cutting proposals within CMMI. So if you're interested in that type of research, look up the Leap High program. So within the core programs, the important thing I wanted to note is that there are no deadlines for unsolicited proposals submitted to the core program. So if you want to submit to ECI an unsolicited proposal, then you can submit anytime. There is no limit on the number of submissions that you can submit to NSF. Sorry, a bit redundant. But you need to be careful because they should be on clearly identifiable different questions. So you can't submit 2 proposals that are essentially the same to 2 different programs. You can also resubmit proposals that have been declined, but CMMI has instituted a waiting period, and we ask you to wait for 1 year from the submission date to resubmit a proposal. You might want to get in touch with me if you're interested in doing that, so that we can discuss it if it's a resubmission, it's always good to kind of have a chat with the program director first to identify what the changes are and how you've addressed some of the concern. So within resilient and sustainable infrastructure, as I said, we have two programs. The Engineering for Civil Infrastructure program has three program directors, myself and Joy Pauschke, who's a veteran of NSF. I think she just celebrated 25 years. And we also have Dr. Kouzatis, who is looking after proposals in civil engineering materials and anything that is structural but not hazards. And Joy overlooks the NARI program, the Natural Hazard Engineering Research Infrastructure program, and the proposals in structures related to hazards. So the Engineering for Civil Infrastructure program supports fundamental research in infrastructure materials and architectural, geotechnical, and structural engineering that can shape the future of a nation's civil infrastructure. So as far as we are concerned, we're looking for proposals that involve geomaterials, geostructures, but also potentially with my other colleagues, structural materials of different kinds and structural, non-structural system and building envelopes. So particularly interested in infrastructure subjected or interacting with their natural environment during construction, service conditions, severe loading and environmental condition, extreme single and multiple events, and whatever you can think of. If you have more to add, we can add them, but any type of major events. So ECI is focused on, of course, civil infrastructure. We're looking at, these are what we consider our priority areas. We have areas that have been there for a long time, such as predictive modeling and simulation, or uncertainty, risk, reliability engineering. And we have some that are relatively new, like data science, AI, multifunctionality, metamaterial, and biomimetics and bioinspiration. We're looking for ideas that will help us improve resiliency and sustainability of our infrastructure by considering decreasing environmental impacts. And of course, we're really interested also in economic prosperity and fostering economic prosperity through our proposals. The ECI program considers disciplinary or cross-disciplinary research. If you have a great cross-disciplinary, or in NSF speak also convergent research idea, I would really recommend you get in touch with me or any other program director that may be involved. It really, really helps when you are crossing those boundaries that were in the previous slides with all the boxes of the various programs. It really helps if your proposal crosses boundaries to identify the best program for it. And we can really help in that and give you directions and guidance. So we really like it, but I would really recommend you talk to me and we together figure out what the best strategy for your proposal is. We're looking for a single PI or multiple PI team. We're interested in contributions that consider the needs of the National Earthquake Hazard Reduction Program, NEHRP, or the National Windstorm Impact Reduction Program, NEWIRP. Of course, since we have these incredible research infrastructure in NARI, we really like proposals that make use of the experimental facilities and all the other facilities, the computational modeling simulation tools. And we're particularly encouraging everyone to consider Design Safe as a repository and their cyber infrastructure for your proposals. So the sad part, what are the areas that we do not support in ECI? Research that lacks grounding in theory, that is not fundamental. There are some exceptions, but by and large, applied research is not appropriate for ECI. Research that is not focused on civil infrastructure, and research that focuses instead on mission agency responsibilities, such as nuclear power plants, energy-related infrastructure, and transportation infrastructure. Characterization of hazards and mitigation and impact of explosions, fire, blast loading is not supported by ECI. Sensor and measurement development, I should say, of sensors and measurement technologies are not supported by ECI and natural hazard characterization. So if you want to study how tornadoes are created, that isn't something that ECI will support. We are looking at the impact of tornadoes. And if you have a proposal that has both, then it's a good idea to talk to us so that we can figure out where it should go and how we could collaborate with another program. And having said this, Brad said that there are no big news, but I think there might be big news coming, but I can't tell you when. So, you know, we're working on this. We're working on the synopsis, so the topics that we're focusing on, what our priorities are, and you know, it's a work in progress. But I would recommend that you occasionally click on our website and see if anything changes. If you're a member of USUCGER, and I'm sorry for everybody else, but if you're a member of USUCGER, I will send an email to let you know when the big news is out. So, you know, don't worry, we'll do our best. And we're also working to have better direct communication lines with the community that is not part of USUCGER, because I realized there are potential PIs that don't belong to the USUCGER organization. One thing that I want to bring up to your attention is that we get a lot of machine learning proposals, and we would really, and we accept those. We said it's a priority, but we would really encourage you to think thoroughly how the machine learning and potentially the AI is incorporated in your proposals. So really highlight the fundamental advancement, because that question, what is new, what is the novelty in the research, is the first question we ask reviewers at NSF. Clearly identify what data sets will be mined and what issues may be apparent or may be important with those data sets. Explain what algorithm justify that, you know, limitations, how, you know, essentially, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but essentially, you really need to treat machine learning as any other tool that you would like to use, and you have to justify why and how. And I think that will really help us, and it will help your proposal as well. So I'm bringing this up because we get a lot, and we basically get these questions on all the proposals that have machine learning in them. So consider that. So the first part of the resilient infrastructures cluster was ECI. The second part is NARI, or the Natural Hazard Engineering Research Infrastructure. This is a wonderful opportunity for our community. We have 12 different facilities that are really relevant for our research work. And I don't know if you noticed, but a 13th facility is in the making. So it was just really, I think, weeks old award for the design of a new facility at Florida International University. I think the acronym is going to be NICHE. The National Full-Scale Testing Infrastructure for Community Hardening in Extreme Wind. It's basically going to look at the impact of extreme winds and storm surges, sorry, and wave action on different type of infrastructure. So this is a design award. I think the facilities will not be constructed before 2026. So stay tuned, but it's coming. I'm not going to go through the whole list because that's going to take a while, but hopefully you are familiar with these facilities. If not, or if you're just barely familiar, I would really encourage you to look up the NERI website and look at each of the facilities. We have some really wonderful geotech-related facilities, such as the geotechnical centrifuge at UC Davis and the mobile shakers at UT Austin. But we also, I know our community makes really good use of the reconnaissance post-disaster rapid facility tools. And, hopefully you also are familiar with the cyber infrastructure and the modeling and simulation tools. I would really encourage everyone to inquire about the opportunities at these facilities. They have periodic workshops where you can learn more about their activities. And I've been visiting virtually many of these facilities over the last year, and I can tell you they provide wonderful support for PIs to learn what they need to learn in order to run their experiments in the facility. And they also provide fantastic support to help you optimize and perfect your designs for testing in the facilities, and to basically do the best that they can possibly do for your project and your proposals. So do contact them when you have the idea, and they'll help you put together what you need for your proposal on the facility. Of course, the idea is yours, but don't be shy. I want to also remind you that you should encourage your undergraduate students to participate in the wonderful opportunities that NERI and others provide in terms of summer research. I apologize to everybody that has an RU site or has RU opportunities for students. I couldn't put you all there, but feel free to advertise on USUCGER. Sorry, Adda. And I was a kind of RU student, and I think it's the reason why I became an academic ultimately. So I think your students will love it. So please, NERI is still accepting application, and I'll put a little plug also for another important geotech related big initiative that NSF is supporting, which is the Center for Biomediated and Bioinspired Geotechnics. They also have an RU opportunity for students, and they also are still accepting applications. And again, I apologize to everybody else who has RU sites in geotech. And I'm happy if you send me the information. I'm happy to include it in my next outreach. Also, one more wonderful opportunity. I feel like everything is wonderful. Opportunity that we have in our field is the I supports post-disaster reconnaissance, both in GEAR, which is our long-standing organization supporting post-disaster reconnaissance, and STEER, which is a little bit younger. So if you have an idea for a rapid proposal, we'll talk a little bit about those later, but I would encourage you to contact GEAR or STEER or the appropriate extreme event reconnaissance organization, because we like to basically route the rapid proposals through them first, because they are basically standing, and they can approve, deploy very fast, and NSF isn't as quick in moving forward. Also, one of the things that I noticed in my year at NSF is that we really need to step up in terms of data and archiving data and taking ownership of our data in ways that are both making data publicly available, discoverable, and archived in such a way that everybody that uses your data then can reference them appropriately. It's really important for NSF. Remember, this is public money that we spend on research, and we'd like for that research to continue to have a life and to continue to be useful if the data can be used in a different way. So please, consider design safe. If your research is related to hazards, but if not, consider what you would need to do in order to make your data archive your data in such a way that they can be, again, discoverable, searchable, and usable, and referenced. And remember, you can put funds in your proposal to take care of this. And I think the community will need to talk about how we're going to handle this in the future. So this is the end of the programs. And then I have a section on more practically submitting proposal and what kind of solicitation we have. So I'll go through quickly. If you're not aware of what the Pubg is, by all means, next thing you do, go and look for it and learn more about it. That is basically what we use for guiding how everything needs to be done in terms of proposals. So if you have a question, most of the time I'll go to the Pubg and check what the Pubg says. So, this is a great resource for everyone. Keep in mind that the Pubg changes. So we have a new one since last October. So check frequently before you write a proposal, because you don't want to submit to an old Pubg. The changes aren't usually earth-shattering, but smaller things. Say, biosketches have been 2 years for the 2 pages for the 20 years I was an academic, and I've been an academic. And this year, they moved to 3 pages. That's a big change. The other big change is that now you're required to report a number of data post-award that have to do with your engagement with research and what support you're receiving. And that is completely new. So please make sure that you have a look at that. So I talked at the beginning about unsolicited proposals. These are the ones that are ideas that you have that are not called by from NSF, and they can be submitted to the core programs at any time. We also have NSF-wide opportunities like the Career Award, which is for early career researchers. You can look at the Pubg proposals that on conferences and workshops, and opportunities for research with industry. I'll talk about that a little bit more. And we also have a number of supplements, and I'll discuss those a little bit later. And I have, so solicitations instead are clear documents that provide guidance on the type of research that NSF would like to receive within particular programs. And these could be within a division or a directorate or across NSF. And I have listed some solicitations in that respect, and I will discuss more. So we talked about rapid proposals. I receive a good number of rapid proposals, especially after some kind of big disaster event. If you are interested in a rapid proposal, you cannot submit unless you have my official, or the program director, if it's a different program, official approval before you submit. So this is where you contact the program director and you start a conversation to establish whether the rapid proposal is appropriate. Keep in mind, the first question you're going to have is, what's the urgency? Why does it need to be done now? Because that's the number one requirement. Why are these data perishable? And essentially, you know, why can't you just put it in as a unsolicited proposal? So the urgency is number one question for rapid proposals. Eager proposals are also a bit different from unsolicited proposal. And here the big question is the untested, potentially transformative, high risk research. But keep in mind that eager proposals are not for projects that are appropriate for submission as regular NSF proposals. So if you think something applies for an eager, again, you need to contact the program director and make sure that's true. I haven't seen very many of these. So it's really something that is really different and really new. Happy to discuss it if you have some of those ideas, and we can see how it could be pursued. The GOLI are grant opportunities for basically work with industry. It's the partnership with industry. There are some requirements on basically essentially the involvement of industry. So if you just have a collaboration, that doesn't qualify as a GOLI unless the industrial partners is really involved in developing the research. The PhD students are going to the industrial partners and conducting some research. So it needs to be really a partnership, not just you're going to get some data or they're going to provide you with in-kind testing opportunities or what it is. Again, if you have questions, contact me and I'll be happy to expand. I think one of the questions was on supplements. There are a number of supplements and new ones get suggested all the time, but these are the ones that are currently active. I particularly want to bring up the RU supplements. We tend to be quite liberal with RU supplements. So if you have an NSF award and you are enthusiastic about undergraduate research, contact me. And you know, the likelihood that you will receive an RU supplement is very, very high. So we really like to support undergraduate researchers. If you are interested in an intern supplement, these are for young researchers or very early career researchers, otherwise called grad students, to go and work with an industrial partner in an internship for 6 months. The idea is that they will conduct some research task at the partners. Usually it's, I've seen, you know, national labs, you know, kind of research facilities, some companies that are really research oriented. Again, let me know before you do all the work, get in touch with me. But I've seen these take a long time. So, you know, don't contact me today for something you think is going to happen next month. These have been like months and months in the making. I don't want to discourage you, just, you know, not for the PhD student that's graduating before summer. Okay, so career life balance is for supporting PIs that have to take care of family responsibilities. So to help them through a period where their family responsibilities are heightened, let's say. And so those are also on the table. And if that's the case, and for you, please, again, for all the supplements, you have to contact me, and then we have a bit of a conversation about, you know, whether your request is appropriate and how to do it, and all these elements that will be needed. Very quickly, a few solicitations, something that is going on right now. Keep in mind that you really want to be aware of what's happening, because solicitations have a minimum of 90 days between posting and due date, but because of various reasons, quite often they only have 90 days. And so if you don't discover the solicitation has been published very quickly on the cycle, you might not have enough time, especially if these are like the 5-10 million type of proposals where you need a long time to get there and to get to a full proposal. So you may want to sign up for news from NSF to make sure. And there's a nice note here that says new solicitations cannot be posted until NSF has a budget for the year. And that is one of the reasons why the 90 days might be a challenge, because last year, the budget was actually approved in June. The federal government fiscal year starts in October. So from October to June, we had no budget. And this year, we're also waiting. We don't have a fully approved budget. And so we can't publish any new solicitations. One of the reasons for which we don't have big news, because we can't make big news. So important solicitations that we see every year. This has been going on for a long time, but the NSF Faculty Early Career Development Program, or the Career Program, is a solicitation. The latest solicitation is the 2525. You can just Google it. One of the questions was that you submitted was, what are the opportunities for early career researchers, perhaps not at Research One institutions? So last year we had the Engineering Research Initiation, or ERI. It's not out this year, but I think you could potentially keep your eyes out for this one. I think ECI really liked it, so we're hoping we're hoping that you will see this again. I don't know, but crossing fingers. The ERI program was for PIs that have no prior federal funding of any type from any federal agency, and are not at Research One institution, so not research institution classified as very high research output. In the last few years, we've added mid-career faculty opportunities this year. So last year, we had the mid-career advancement solicitation. This is out right now, but CMMI does not participate. So please be really careful if you are interested in an MCA, ECI, and the whole of the CMMI division is not participating. So you cannot submit to that if you want to submit a proposal, say in ECI type topics. We had last year in CMMI the Bright solicitation. This has not been published this year yet, but I think I can say yet. I'm not supposed to talk about solicitations that are not published, but we've been made aware that something may be coming. So, again, keep an eye out. If you're a mid-career faculty, Bright is likely coming up. But I don't have any other information of what it will look like. Hopefully everybody is relatively familiar with the career program. Submission date is in July, and there are lots of opportunities for learning more about it. There is usually a workshop organized by NSF in April, and you may want to, the applications for the workshop are due later in the spring, I should have said. I apologize. I don't think we have a date yet. And, if you have questions on the career, let me know. And we'll move on. Right now, just published Signals in the Soils is a big program. It's a deadline, 90 days, so 14th of April. This is in collaboration with the US Department of Agriculture. And the solicitation is looking for convergent research that transform existing capabilities, understanding dynamic soil processing, including soil formation through advances in sensor system and modeling. So in this case, Signals in the Soil is looking at novel sensing system and convergent research, meaning you need to have a combination of different disciplines, and they really need to be different, like biological, chemical, physical parameters. You're asking, why are we talking about this? Well, if you look at the solicitation right in the first page, it points out that soils are the foundation material for all structures, and by order of magnitude, the most widely used construction material in the world. I think that kind of qualifies as geotechnical engineering. Also, I think many of you are probably interested in carbon capture and sequestration, and so soils may serve that purpose. And so this solicitation might be interesting in some of you, interesting for some of you. Another one that's just recently out, but you see it's already due soon, probably too soon. So I put the date for next year, is Navigating the New Arctic. This is looking at understanding and adapting to a changing Arctic. We're thinking about here climate change, to be honest. And it's looking at a wide range of topics and interest. And again, you find convergence research across social, natural, environmental, computing, and informational sciences and engineering that addresses interaction connection among natural and built environments and social systems. So potentially, we have some PIs in geotechnical engineering that have been successful with the NNI solicitation. Follow up on the question that somebody had in the pre-submitted question, what are the opportunities for PIs at prevalent undergraduate institutions? So have a look if the engineering research initiation solicitation comes out, but another possibility is the facilitating research at primarily undergraduate institutions. This is a long-standing, you can see the numbers are not matching, so I'll correct you. I'll correct that. I don't remember which one is the correct one. I think it might be this one, the bottom one. But this basically has some directions on how to submit proposals in highlighting the involvement of primarily undergraduate institutions. Oh, this is the 615, not the previous one. So this is the Emerging Frontier in Research and Innovation. This one is over for this year, so the next pre-proposal phase is next September. But I just want to bring it up because this is the one of the topics is engineered living system, and it's talking about a sustainable built environment and a safe built environment, which might also include some geotech aspects. And then finally, this is the last one, I promise. Critical aspects of sustainability is a Dear Colleague letter that just came out. There are different critical aspects of sustainability, so that's causing great confusion. I am confused too, so, if you have questions, email me. But this is particularly in innovative solutions to climate change. And there are some topics that are potentially relevant to our field. Something on greenhouse gas emission and energy innovation relevant to climate change. And the one that really is bearing geotech is the strategies for climate change adaptation. Now, the problem with this DCL is that it doesn't have extra money. So if your proposal is related to geotech, it's going to move around a little bit to find the right program, and then it's going to come to me. And it's going to be in the group with all the unsolicited proposals. Not to say that that's bad, but just to basically encourage you to, instead of, to kind of make it faster by contacting me together with this email that's on the slide, so that you basically cut some extra time that will be added. If you just send the idea to CAS, then somebody will read it and send it to somebody in geology who will say, no, that's not for me. And it will take a couple of weeks to finally land on my email. So if you're interested in this idea or in ideas that are potentially relevant to CAS, they also need to be relevant to everything I said about ECI, with those, exclusions. And then, you would have to kind of, I would basically encourage you to submit if that's, if it fits. So if you're interested in CAS climate change, get in touch, essentially. And as you've noticed, everything I said so far is, and if you're interested in this, get in touch. So I don't know. I think that we potentially could. Oh my gosh, I ate up all the time. Adda, you needed to stop. I have more, but I think we should go to questions anyway.
Yes, no, that's fine. And thank you so much. I think, you did a great job also addressing some of the questions that were pre-submitted in your presentation. So I think we have covered a lot of ground. I will maybe ask a question that some people may have on their mind, especially on the earlier career side. I remember as an assistant professor, one of the first things I was told by colleagues is get to know your program director. And back then in the pre-COVID world, that meant, coordinating a meeting, getting on a plane, coming to Washington, D.C., which I understand, is not an option currently. And so what would you recommend that newer faculty do to get in touch with you, discuss some perhaps ideas they may have, and get some guidance on how to go about that?
Absolutely. That is actually one of the slides in the next slides, but I think it's great to answer questions. That gives me a chance to catch my breath. So I think actually that's the best, the best, it's a silver lining of COVID. I actually think that's the best outcome that we've had with all the bad ones, in that I would encourage you not to come and visit me, even if you could, which you will not be able to, but we'll get into that. And just send me an email and introduce yourselves. It might be good to start out with, volunteering for reviewing proposals, because, that's always offering to do something is always a good intro. And so perhaps attach your CV and say, I'm a new faculty member, or not. It's okay. And, I'm interested in potentially serving as a reviewer, and I'm wondering if I could have a chance to have a meeting with you. And usually I set up a meeting and we have a nice chat on Zoom. So absolutely, all the new assistant professors and that, have not had a chance to meet a program director, go ahead and contact me. And we can set up a meeting. I will expand a little bit in that everybody else is also welcome to contact me and get a meeting. For the more experienced PI, I would recommend that you probably want to talk about an idea rather than just to have a chat. So if you have an idea, it's always great. That applies to everybody, but it's always great to have a one-page kind of quick summary. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be the summary you're going to submit, but it gives me a little bit of time to think about what comment I want to make. So asking for a meeting to discuss an idea is also wonderful. And I think that Zoom is great for those one-on-one meetings.
Yeah, absolutely. And you kind of answered a little bit of the question that I was going to ask with respect to panels, which, again, may be a bit of an unknown for younger professors, but basically, kind of reaching out to you with their areas of expertise is the easiest way to be considered for a panel, correct?
Yes. Now, we have lots of requests and not so many panels. So, be patient. Sometimes, I will ask for an ad hoc review, which is kind of like an intermediate thing. And also, for everybody, I do understand everybody's busy and has a lot to do. So turning the opportunity down doesn't mean I'm not going to invite them again. It just, you're busy. It's perfectly understandable. You don't have time to review all the proposals. Just, feel free to decline. Maybe not 10 times, but, I don't want anybody to just overburden themselves because, they get a request from me and they just aren't going to be able to do it, or, just, it'll come again.
Sure. One other thing that I remember discussing with Rick Fergesi in the past, but ever since the formation of ECI, with the three program directors falling under ECI, I have heard a lot of times the question, or people wonder, how exactly is the budget distributed between the various areas? Is the budget distributed? Are we getting a third? Is it not? Is it more interwoven? How does that work?
Yeah, we can't quite discuss these things. And so I'll point out also that people have been asking about success rate. We can't disclose those. NSF requests that we do not do any of that. So I'm not being coy or anything. I just can't. Okay. I'll say it's a pretty fluid budget. Send in good proposals, and we're not kind of saying, we're going to have this much. We kind of fight for good proposals, and so don't worry. I think what we are worried about in terms of what's the footprint of geotech. I think ECI is our home. And it's still our civil engineering colleagues. It's almost like, what is the ECI footprint? How can we get our PIs to have more opportunities? And so part of our work is to be in those intra-NSF, inter-agency working groups, so that we can add soil, foundations, climate adaptation, infrastructure, and questions like that. But it's really important that our community also is aware that we really need to write proposals, write good proposals, create good convergent teams, and go aggressively, for big things.
Yeah. I know we're kind of close to wrapping up the time, and I'll ask one more question that we had here, but if Brad has received anything online, he can let us know as well. Another question, and I've kind of wondered myself, to be honest, ever since there was no longer a deadline for the unsolicited proposals, and you never know how long the review is going to take. So what is typically like a good start date, right? So when there was a deadline, at least it was easy to know when you might be able to start a project. What is your advice on how to handle this kind of thing, allowing obviously for time for the reviews to happen so that the start time can be a realistic time frame?
Yeah. Okay. So I really I really don't have a good answer because we don't have. We make up panels. We build panels. We set up panels depending on how many proposals come in. So I can tell you that certain periods are a bit less busy because you guys are busy. If it's the beginning of the semester, you're probably not submitting proposals. So that's true. But other than that, is like when I have a reasonable number, I start a panel. So NSF has a rule that at least 75% of proposal needs to be processed within 6 months of submission. And we try to do that. Now, keep in mind it's 75%, not every proposal. But so the way might be to kind of think of a target date that you need the money and then subtract 8 months, and it's like 6 months for the review process. And then if you get an award, it takes another month and a half. So I think we had questions on the chat. What aspects of geosciences would ECI be supportive of, e.g. geothermal energy? So that's a bit of a tricky question because it depends on what you mean by geothermal energy. So we said anything to do with energy infrastructure was not going to be part or was not going to be supported by ECI. We've made a little bit of an exception for geothermal geostructures, if that makes sense. So if the geothermal component is part of a typical geotechnical infrastructure, then we've accepted the proposal for review. If it's deep geothermal, unlikely, or I'd say I don't think I've accepted those because it's considered part of the mission agency responsibility. So DOE should be responsive on that. And then Cass is saying, can we organize a meeting session at the next Geo-Congress? Yes. I'm not quite sure whether that should be a question for Adda, I think. So yes, absolutely do that. Maybe I can have a role in coming and talking to you about what I know about NNA, and I can try to learn more and look at the previous funded grants to kind of understand what the successful elements were. So I'm happy to be more in this is what NSF recommend, but perhaps Cassie, you can organize the session or ask USUCGER to help.
Yeah, no, this is definitely in the plans, and the good thing is that you are officially allowed from NSF to travel, which is a necessary condition. So given that, we definitely have something in the works, and we'll announce details as we get closer to the event.
Yeah, so just to clarify, NSF, as of today, I just got an email, I think a couple of hours ago, we were told, we got confirmation that there will be no in-person panels until the end of the fiscal year. None. We're still in full telework, full remote work operations, but we are allowed to travel with some provisions, that are fine, are met. So I can travel. The problem is we don't have a budget, so I cannot ask for travel monies until the budget is approved because of various reasons. So I can't go through the practical aspects, but my plan is to be at Geo-Congress. So, Cassie, extend an invitation to talk to the, planning meet and greet NNA group, and I'll be happy to chat to them.
Okay, maybe we can take one or two more. I don't know how we're doing with time, Brad, but yeah, just let us know when we need to stop.
I have until I have another 8 minutes.
Okay.
Sorry, I need to be somewhere.
Can you see on your end any other questions?
Yes, I can see. How is confidentiality addressed in the ideas discussion? Would you recommend others with similar interest if you see collaboration opportunities? No, it is 100% confidential. I cannot make those connections for you. I'm sorry. Well, in a loose way maybe, but not specifically, because I cannot, and I and anybody involved in the review of proposal should be discussing anything they've seen in a panel or in reviewing proposals. And if they do, then that's really not good. They should keep it to themselves. So, any more questions? I don't see any questions coming up.
That was it from the chat. So Adda, I don't know if you have one more you want to finish with, or if you're happy where we are.
I think we're good. I mean, I think, one of the questions that was repeating had to do with what Giovanna at the beginning, however, addressed, that it's something coming. So, I don't want to put her on the spot again, because I know the answer is, in terms of research priorities and topics, obviously it's of interest to a lot of people. But we'll stay tuned, and refresh our brains for that.
If you're okay, I'll expand a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think there are two different aspects to this. One aspect is, ECI has a synopsis, which is our guiding topic, priorities type of this description on the website. And we are guided, we developed that and are guided by it. But we can change it. It's a decision that the ECI program directors make. So, periodically when people change, there is discussion. So we're undergoing that kind of conversation. Is this that we excluded really worthy of exclusion, or, is this research happening somewhere else, or should we pick up? So that is one part. The second part, I think, is that NSF is really kind of getting geared up towards the thinking about effects of climate change, adaptation to climate change, which I think is our kind of field where we, as geotechnical engineers, this is the we here is the geotechnical engineering community, where we, I think, as geotechnical engineers, have a lot that we can contribute. So I think that the community should think about or expect those areas to expand. The budget has lots of, I think, opportunities in that direction. Unfortunately, until the layers above make a certain event happen, we can't expand that much. So that's why, for example, you saw the Dear Colleague letter, because the Dear Colleague letter has no money in it, so it doesn't matter if there is budget or not. But they can put out the word, we're interested in climate change effects, adaptability, greenhouse gases, sequestration. So I think expect to see more of that, expect to see more on disaster recovery, disaster prevention, all the big news we've had with hurricanes, tornadoes, help me out with all the disasters.
Speaking of that, and maybe we can finish on this, but speaking of that, even though we do engineering, I think we all recognize the need for diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? In the work that we do, in the people, we work with, the way we address problems that communities face. Do you see, I mean, that a space for that, but, more specifically, right, in proposals and things that we do to address that with the engineering related work, but, kind of bringing in that component?
I think excellent question. So if you look at, I think NSF is really pushing in that direction. So if you look at the signals in the soils, the novelty of this solicitation is the inclusion of the social behavioral science directorate. And so now social aspects, economic aspects are included. So I think that there is a general tendency towards what NSF calls convergence. So I think if the community wants to go and compete in large proposals, especially, you want those 15, 20 millions, you can go for it, because I think infrastructure is going to be a big word for NSF in the coming years. And so I think we have the potential as geotechnical engineers to compete in these large competitions, but it won't be as geotechnical engineers. It will be as a team that has not just cross-disciplinary, multidisciplinary, but convergent, meaning it's not the structural engineer and the geotechnical engineer, it's the economist, the expert in policy. I mean, it's complicated, but,
yeah,
that's why they give you 10 or 20 millions.
Yeah.
So I hope we do well on that, because I think we really are going to be important for the nation's prosperity and competitiveness and all that. And we can make a good case when we go up to the director to say, you really need to support this. You really need to support infrastructure. And ECI is the only program that has the hard infrastructure in it. So I'm being enthusiastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll add my thanks, and I'll let Brad kind of conclude the session. But thank you very, very much for being with us today. I think you have presented a lot of useful information. This is going to be available through the YouTube link. I'm sure Brad will mention this. We'll host it on the USUCGER website as well. But thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. I missed you, as in, I can't wait for us to all be able to interact a bit more and make it a little bit easier. But in the meanwhile, feel free to email me. Everyone, not just Adda.
Yeah.
And thanks, Adda, for hosting today and moderating. And I'll say something that Giovanna can't say for all of you out there who are frustrated you don't have a budget yet, and that NSF doesn't have a budget yet. Call your member of Congress, call your senators, and tell them, get the science budget done on time at the end of the year. And it hasn't happened, I believe, since 1994. Some years are worse than others. The budget comes out later than it does at other times, but that is, call them and explain to them what it does to your research if you have to operate under a continuing resolution, and how many jobs it impacts in their district. And that's what I'll say about that. And you will make an impression if you come to them with those two things. So thanks again, guys, for doing this today. And for all our viewers out there, yes, we are going to try and do something again at Geo-Congress. So look forward to that. 2 months, 8 weeks from now, we will be in Charlotte. And hopefully you will be there with us too. So make sure you get registered. We'll notify everyone when that NSF session is going to be. Again, click subscribe, click get notifications. We'll let you know every time we post something to the YouTube channel. Hopefully more stuff like this in 2022. And thanks everybody for sticking with us till the end, and have a great day.